Spider-Man 2 on the Steam Deck. Can this ambitious open-world superhero adventure truly run on Valve's handheld? I tested different settings and upscaling options to see if a playable experience is even possible. Let's dive in. First, I tested the game on very low settings without any upscaling. The results were disappointing. While it sometimes reached 30 FPS, the average hovered around 25 FPS, with frequent drops close to 20 FPS. This inconsistency made traversal feel sluggish, and combat became noticeably difficult due to the frame pacing issues. The game world felt unresponsive at times, and the frequent stutters took away from the fluid movement Spider-Man is known for. This setting is simply not recommended for anyone hoping for a playable experience. Next, I enabled FSR 3.1 in quality mode, still on very low settings. This improved performance slightly, with the game holding 30 FPS more often. However, there were still dips into the 20s, and the inconsistency made web swinging feel jerky rather than smooth. While stationary or in less demanding areas, the performance seemed acceptable, but as soon as the action picked up, the frame rate took noticeable hits. Cutscenes also suffered from uneven pacing, making the storytelling feel less immersive. Ultimately, while this was a minor step up, it still didn't provide an enjoyable experience. Then I tried FSR 3.1 in ultra performance mode. Frame rates increased significantly, often ranging between 30 and 40 FPS, with occasional spikes above 60 FPS. But visually, this setting is a disaster. The extreme flickering, aggressive ghosting, and poor image quality make it unplayable. Character models look distorted, fine details are lost in a mess of artifacts, and the city itself becomes a blurry, unstable mess. Fast movement exacerbates these issues, turning an already rough visual experience into something borderline nauseating. This setting may improve frame rates, but the cost is simply too high, making it one of the worst ways to play the game. Moving on, I tested FSR 3.1 in balanced mode on very low settings. This provided more stable performance, averaging closer to 30 FPS. Initially, this seemed like the best option, as gameplay felt somewhat smoother in controlled environments. However, I'll get into the major issues with this setting later. While swinging through the city, minor stutters persisted, and when engaging in combat, sudden drops in performance still disrupted the fluidity. Interiors and enclosed areas fared better, but the open world sections, where the game truly shines, continued to struggle with rendering and performance stability. For comparison, I also tested low settings with FSR 3.1 in ultra performance mode. Here, the game struggled to maintain just above 30 FPS, the additional graphical details didn't justify the performance hit, and the game still failed to maintain consistent playability. Shadows and lighting were slightly improved compared to very low, but textures still took ages to load, and the experience remained underwhelming. Returning to very low settings with FSR 3.1 in balanced mode, I enabled frame generation to see if it could help. At first it looked promising, with frame rates between 40 and 50 FPS. However, the input delay was very noticeable, making the game feel sluggish and unresponsive. The extra frames created by frame generation did little to improve the overall experience, as movement felt disconnected from player input. In a fast-paced action game like Spider-Man 2, precise timing is crucial, and this delay made dodging, web swinging, and combat feel awkward and unnatural. Because of this, I wouldn't recommend frame generation either. It simply introduces more problems than it solves. Now let's address the biggest issue. Even on the very low settings with FSR 3.1 in balanced mode, the experience is still terrible. During fast camera movements through the city, the game stutters heavily, textures fail to load, and the screen often freezes while the audio continues. At times, it feels like the game has completely crashed, only to resume in a slow-motion slideshow. Additionally, certain effects like reflections and particle physics cause noticeable dips in performance, leading to an experience that feels half-finished. Loading times can also be inconsistent and very long, and during high-speed chases, objects in the world sometimes pop in far too late, breaking immersion entirely. This is simply not a playable experience in its current form. Unfortunately, in its current state, I can't recommend Spider-Man 2 on the Steam Deck. While the game itself is an amazing experience on more powerful hardware, it does not translate well to the Steam Deck. Performance is simply too inconsistent, and even the lowest settings fail to provide a stable frame rate. I hope future updates will improve optimization, introduce better upscaling solutions, and make the game at least playable on this device. Until then, it's best to play Spider-Man 2 elsewhere. Have you tried Spider-Man 2 on the Steam Deck? If so, what settings worked best for you? Let me know in the comments. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more in-depth performance reviews of your favorite games on the Steam Deck. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.